Understand what I'm about to tell you, your life will never be the same again. If you complete this video to the end, your life will change now. We live in a world obsessed with instant gratification, where fleeting pleasures are marketed as essential to happiness, and where the quiet erosion of self-control is often dismissed as harmless. But beneath the surface of what society deems normal lies a silent epidemic, a habit so ingrained, so normalized, that its consequences are rarely questioned. It begins innocently enough, a momentary escape from stress, boredom, or loneliness. Yet over time, this habit becomes a chain, binding its victims to a cycle of emptiness, sapping their vitality and clouding their potential. The ancients called this akrasia, the state of acting against one's better judgment. Today, we might call it addiction, compulsion, or simply a lack of willpower. But regardless of the label, the outcome is the same: a life half-lived, a spirit diminished, and a man trapped in a prison of his own making. The insidious nature of this habit lies in its ability to masquerade as a harmless release. Modern culture, with its relentless emphasis on individualism and personal freedom, often frames such indulgences as acts of self-care or even empowerment. "You deserve this," it whispers, "everyone does it." But beneath this veneer of normalcy, a darker truth emerges. Each time the habit is indulged, the brain is flooded with dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This surge is not inherently harmful. Dopamine drives motivation, curiosity, and the pursuit of goals. However, when hijacked by artificial stimuli, whether through substances, screens, or compulsive behaviors, the brain's reward system becomes distorted. Over time, the threshold for satisfaction rises, leaving individuals chasing ever greater highs to feel the same fleeting rush. The result: a brain wired for dependency, a will weakened by dependency, and a life governed by the pursuit of empty calories for the soul. The Stoics, those paragons of self-mastery from antiquity, understood this dilemma long before neuroscience could quantify it. Seneca, the Roman philosopher and statesman, observed that the body is not a permanent dwelling, but a sort of inn with a brief sojourn which is to be left behind when one perceives that one is a burden to the host. His words cut to the heart of the matter. The body and its appetites are transient, yet we often grant them dominion over our lives. To the Stoic, the body was a vessel to be mastered, not a master to be served. Indulging its every whim, they argued, was akin to handing the reins of a chariot to a wild horse. Chaos and ruin were inevitable. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, echoed this sentiment in his Meditations, writing, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." For the Stoics, true freedom was not the ability to act on every impulse, but the discipline to choose which impulses were worthy of action. Yet modern society thrives on the opposite premise. It encourages us to follow our hearts, to live in the moment, and to prioritize feeling good over doing good. This cultural narrative, amplified by algorithms designed to exploit our basest instincts, creates a perfect storm for self-sabotage. The habit in question, whether it be compulsive consumption of pornography, mindless scrolling, binge eating, or any other dopamine-driven behavior, feeds on this vulnerability. It promises relief but delivers depletion. It offers connection but fosters isolation. It sells freedom but demands servitude. And with each repetition, the chains grow heavier, the silence between moments of indulgence filled with a gnawing sense of shame, the shadow of a self betrayed. Science now corroborates what the Stoics intuited. Studies on addiction reveal that compulsive habits rewire the brain's prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for decision-making and impulse control. Over time, neural pathways associated with the habit become reinforced, while those linked to restraint atrophy. This is the paradox of self-control. The more we indulge, the less control we possess. The habit becomes automatic, a default response to discomfort, and the individual becomes a passenger in their own life. Worse still, the dopamine depletion caused by chronic overstimulation leaves individuals feeling perpetually lethargic and unmotivated. Goals that once sparked excitement, building a career, cultivating relationships, pursuing creative passions, feel distant and unachievable. Why climb a mountain when a dopamine hit is just a click away? The Stoic response to this crisis was neither denial nor asceticism, but wisdom, the wisdom to discern between pleasures that elevate and those that enslave. Epictetus, the former slave turned philosopher, framed it bluntly. Freedom is secured not by the fulfilling of desires, but by the removal of desire. This is not a call to eradicate all wants, but to interrogate them. What do we truly seek in our moments of weakness, validation, escape, comfort? The Stoics argued that these cravings are proxies for deeper needs: purpose, connection, self-respect. When we address the root, the compulsion withers. Consider the habit through this lens. At its core, it is not about the act itself, but what the act represents: a flight from discomfort, a salve for insecurity, a substitute for meaning. The man who turns to compulsive habits is often a man adrift, untethered from a vision of his higher self. He has not yet grasped Seneca's admonition: you must live for another if you wish to live for yourself. Purpose, the Stoics believed, is the antidote to dissipation. A man consumed by a mission, whether to build, create, protect, or inspire, has no time for trivial indulgences. His energy is directed outward into the world rather than inward into the spiral of self-gratification. This redirection of energy is what the ancients termed transmutation, the alchemy of turning base impulses into noble pursuits. The concept is rooted in the understanding that human energy is finite and that whatever is wasted on trivialities cannot be invested in greatness. Sexual energy in particular was seen as a potent force. The Roman poet Ovid remarked, "Resist beginnings, the remedy comes too late when the evil has grown strong by long delay." The Stoics took this further, arguing that all energy, physical, emotional, intellectual, could be harnessed and redirected. A man who abstains from midnight indulgences, for instance, might channel his restless energy into pre-dawn workouts or creative endeavors. The urge remains, but its expression is transformed. History offers countless examples of this principle in action. Leonardo da Vinci, whose prolific output spanned art, science, and engineering, famously avoided romantic entanglements, believing they distracted from his work. Nikola Tesla, as noted, attributed his inventive genius to celibacy, claiming it sharpened his focus. Even in the realm of athletics, champions like Muhammad Ali and Michael Phelps adhered to strict regimens, sacrificing immediate pleasures for long-term glory. These men were not devoid of desire. They simply subordinated it to a higher calling. Yet the path to such mastery is neither linear nor easy. It requires what the Stoics called ascesis, disciplined practice. Just as a musician dedicates hours to scales or a warrior to drills, the seeker of self-mastery must train his mind daily. This begins with awareness, catching the impulse as it arises and interrogating its origin. Is this urge truly mine, or is it a conditioned response? What void am I attempting to fill? Journaling, a practice Marcus Aurelius himself employed, can illuminate these patterns. By documenting moments of weakness, the triggers, the rationalizations, the aftermath, we expose the habit's mechanics and weaken its grip. The next step is substitution. Nature abhors a vacuum, and the mind is no exception. Eliminating a habit without replacing it leaves space for resentment and relapse. The Stoics advocated filling this void with virtue practices that cultivate courage, temperance, wisdom, and justice. For the modern man, this might mean replacing a nightly ritual of indulgence with reading philosophy, engaging in physical training, or mentoring others. The key is to choose activities that demand focus and effort, thereby strengthening the neural circuits of self-control. Here, the Stoic emphasis on community proves vital. Just as a lone ember dies without kindling, a man striving for self-mastery thrives in the company of like-minded peers. The ancient Stoics gathered in schools and public forums, debating ideas and holding one another accountable. Today, this might translate to mastermind groups, mentorship, or even online communities centered on growth. Accountability dissolves the isolation that fuels secret habits, replacing shame with solidarity. Ultimately, the journey from compulsion to mastery is a rebirth, a shedding of the old self's skin. It is uncomfortable, even painful, for it demands confronting parts of ourselves we'd rather ignore. But as Seneca reminds us, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Each resisted urge, each conscious choice to act with integrity, forges a new identity. The man who once saw himself as weak begins to recognize his strength. The man who once sought escape now seeks challenge. And in this transformation, he discovers a truth the Stoics held sacred: that the greatest reward is not the absence of desire, but the presence of power, the power to choose, to endure, and to transcend. The benefits of this metamorphosis ripple outward. Physiologically, breaking free from dopamine-driven cycles restores hormonal balance, elevating testosterone and enhancing vitality. Psychologically, it fosters resilience as the mind learns to tolerate discomfort rather than flee from it. Socially, it builds trust and respect, as the man becomes a beacon of reliability rather than a prisoner of his impulses. And existentially, it answers the primal hunger for meaning, replacing the hollow pursuit of pleasure with the profound satisfaction of purpose. But let us not romanticize the path. Temptation will linger, setbacks will occur. The Stoics acknowledge this, advocating not for perfection but for progress. Epictetus, ever the pragmatist, advised, progress is not achieved by luck or accident, but by working on yourself daily. Each day is a new arena, a fresh opportunity to choose discipline over decadence. And with each choice, the habit's hold weakens until one day the man realizes he is no longer fighting the current but sailing with the wind. In the end, this is the Stoic secret. Mastery begins the moment we stop negotiating with our weaknesses. It is a commitment to living intentionally, where every action aligns with principle rather than impulse. The habit, once a crutch, becomes a relic, a reminder of who we were, not who we are. And in its place stands a man unshaken by temptation, undivided in purpose, and unyielding in his pursuit of excellence. This is the essence of true masculinity. This is the path of the Stoic.